Hey everybody. I'm starting to try to do a new thing where it's not new to everybody else, but it's new to me. I'm going to start doing some live videos on YouTube. This time of, oh God, you're probably tired of hearing this time of COVID-19 or being in self-isolation. But it's true. And I hear a lot of people saying, hey, you should document, you should write down in journals and everything. And I think what our generation or this generation has a lot better is video documentation. And I think that helps out a lot. So I'm literally doing this for the first time. I'm kind of winging it. Um, and I just think it's good for us to connect and have like a personal experience, a personal expression. I'm open to comments, and if you guys talk and comment on this, I will definitely respond because I think it's about connection. And ultimately, I think it's about being heard. I'm a little short of breath because I ran upstairs in order to record this live stream. But I think it's also this concept of being heard. And it's not that you hearing me in a sense that like I'm expressing, you're watching my video, I'm expressing myself, but I want to hear you actually. And if you have any troubles or thoughts or things that you're going through, I want to talk to you. I'm not a licensed therapist. I I'm not a licensed. I'm not. I just want to point that out. What I have been trained in is improv, is in performance, and what's really specific about improv is listening and observing are the greatest skills you have, are the most powerful tools in your arsenal. So I'd rather use that instead of me express myself, but I want to listen to you, and talk to you about what you're going through, and if you have any questions and anything you want to talk about, I'm down for that. But like I said, it's my first time doing this, so I am going to be checking the comments. I'll be replying to previous videos if people comment on previous videos. But as it's my first one, I don't have a previous video. So my content is going to be what kind of you want to talk about, and I'll try to research it, try to look it up and everything. But I want you to be heard. With that in mind, this very first episode is going to be on role playing games because I'm a big nerd. I like, if you want to connect, if you want to get to know me and I can get to know you and your interests and all that kind of stuff, I love nerdy stuff like role playing games and video games, as well as like Star Wars, Harry Potter, Lord of the Rings, Night Before Christmas, all that kind of stuff. I love traveling. I also love animals. I'm one of those people, when you go to the zoo, I throw out those random animal facts. I love stuff like that. I get really nerdy. Like, we went to the Chester Zoo and I got really nerdy because the sloth was super active and was like the most active sloth I've ever seen. It was running around and climbing everything. It was nuts. I was just like a little kid. I thought it was so neat. So I love animals, traveling, nerd stuff. I also love improv, that you might know. So this will be a very raw, honest interview. I don't plan on getting profane because I want this to be open to all audiences. But I do want to be vulnerable without being needy or desperate. That's the thing, is I want to connect with you, connect with other people. Another thing is I'm motionless if you can see him, but my cat's food dish is in here, and so if you hear crunching or little lapping noises, it's probably my cat grabbing a little munch. So the first thing I want to talk about is role playing games. I think in this time of social media connection and everything, role playing games end up being a really good way to connect and be creative and laugh. And it's not super affected by the lag. So if you're on Zoom or Facebook or FaceTime or all this kind of stuff, and you start doing like these social media RPGs, the lag that a bad Wi-Fi connection might cause doesn't destroy the whole experience. My suggestion is to keep it to smaller numbers, like 3 and under, because the more Wi-Fi, the more videos you have going on, and the more diversity of Wi-Fi connections, sometimes it slows the experience down. But I played a game up to 6 and it was totally fine. I'm just thinking that like that's to your best benefit. And so there's a bunch of different like role playing systems out there. I cut my teeth on, oh my gosh, to give you a little background on myself. My brother who's 4 years older than me introduced me to Advanced Dungeons and Dragons. And the cover was that big stone demon with the jeweled eyes, and people are climbing up there. And that's an old school event. I remember that was like the first introduction of the Bard Paladin class. And like, to become a Bard or Paladin was just completely impossible to become one. But they also, like, that was before Barbarian. They still called them thieves. They didn't call them rogues and all this kind of stuff. Wizards, you got a D4. You had to roll a D4 for hit points. And if you got 1 hit point, that's what you got. Sorry, your character has 1 hit point. Like, so that was really fun because I think when you're given limitations, that's when you're actually the most creative. I think when you're given boundaries as artists, you're like, how can I touch those, every single wall of those boundaries or one boundary or whatever? Whereas when you're free form, just like in improv, I think a lot of people find the open-ended free form really appealing but then what happens is they kind of get lost. They don't know where to go. Whereas if you have something with a lot of structure, like maybe a GTS Brown or like the Herald, you're almost forced to like push. Now you know what a risky move means. In a free form, you don't know what a risky, edgy move means. But in a more structured format, you know what a risky move means. So I kind of like that you could make a bad character. I kind of like that. Oh my god, you could have a really crappy character, because I've always felt like it's just like an improv, but also in RPGs, sometimes it's the failures or the flaws that where the funniest parts are. So for example, if you watched Lord of the Rings, Gimli, the dwarf character, is funny. He's a lot of comedic, and his relationship with Legolas is really funny. But that's, I mean, he falls off the horse. He drinks a lot of beer. He says the wrong thing. Like, it's a lot of the flaws and failures that I think are really fun. And so I like that in Dungeons and Dragons. You could have like the wizard that has one hit point, and then it becomes funny because, oh my gosh, that wizard cannot take any damage, kind of thing. So I love that sort of stuff. But I do want to highlight one RPG that I think is being underrepresented in this time of COVID-19. Star Wars RPG. Okay. Now this is an older book. This is the only book I ever bought for Star Wars. I only played it a handful of times, but I really like the system. The system is based on a number of successes. So you roll your stat, let's say, is strength, and you have a 3. I'm just making this up right now, which means you get to roll 3 6-sided dice. And the DM says you need 5 successes in order to in order to break this stick, right? So if you have a 3, you can only possibly roll 3 dice. There's no way you can get 5 successes. But if you have a character that's strong and they have 5, okay, they have a possibility, but all their 5s have to be successes. If they have like a 10, they have a greater possibility because they roll 10 6-sided dice, and 5 of those have to be successes, right? What does a success mean? Depends on the DM. If it's a really easy task like tying your shoe, they might say, well, it's really heavy wire that you're bending, but it's a pretty easy task to tying a shoe. So you have to get, I think generally it's 4s. That's what they say, is roll over a 4. But they might say you just have to roll 5 2s. So out of all those dice you roll, they have to be 2 or greater, right? But I think it's generally 4s, but the DMs might say something like they ought to be 6s, depending on how difficult the thing is, right? Or the situation that you find yourself in. So that's what it is. You don't really need a lot of fancy dice. You can get dice rollers on your cell phone, and you can roll a number of 6-sided dice. Like that. Or I love just the tactile sensation of having the dice, of writing stuff. I love pencil and paper, of like writing it out, because then you can draw, and then over the course of time, your character sheet is almost like a documentation of your experiences, because in a year or so, then it's going to be all like the race marks and the stains from your Cheetos and the coffee cups. But Star Wars is a really fun system. Once you get the hang of it, it's really easy. Like, that's the basics of what I just told you. It's really easy because not only do they have successes, I think they're called pips. And so what happens is you get +1 to your roll. So if you have to get a success of 4 and you have a +1 pip, you roll a 3. 3 + 1 is 4. You've made that success, whatever. So there's pips and there's actual dice and everything. And then I myself am just a huge fan of the sci-fi kind of mysticism genre. There's a lot of, like I said, look at there's classic Yoda. I am a big fan of the original trilogy, so being able to play like a Gamorrean guard, being able to play like an Ewok is so awesome. And then I'm the kind of person, like, here's some ships that you can fly, which are classic Empire Strikes Back, Return of the Jedi ships, love it. But I'm the kind of person that I love when I see something I really like. I watch a show, or here's the reality: when I watch rugby for the first time and I see something I like, I go, "What's my version of that? Like, how do I express myself through that medium, or what does it look like when I get to put my signature on that?" So when I went to see rugby for the first time, the day I came home, because I saw it in France, the day I came home, I signed up for a rugby team, and 2 days later, I started playing rugby. So like movies like this is like, what would be my version of the person who has the Force, or what's my version of a Gamorrean guard, or my version of an Ewok, or something like that. So I love doing stuff like that. I love putting my spin on stuff, my signature on stuff. To me, it also is a way to explore what I believe, what I think, what my expressions are. So yeah, that's my first video. Is going to be about Star Wars RPG. I'm not quite sure what future video is on. The whole thing is I just want to connect. I want you, if you want to connect, I'll talk to you and just say hi. But let's just not be afraid. It's not social distancing. It's more, I mean, it's not social isolation. It's more just distancing, right? It's really weird. I've been talking about this with some of my friends, that World War III was against a virus. And so the literal world is like self-isolating and reacting to this, and it's attacking. And so it's just really interesting that this thing that brings the world hopefully together. It seems like countries are having their own responses to it, but hopefully through social media that we can really just connect to one another and realize that we have more similarities than dissimilarities, and we can come through stronger on the other side of this. If you have any family members, anyone going through this, um, so sorry. Like there's fears. It's a really crazy time right now. Um, this last thing I wanted to share is, for me, I've realized, because I'm currently going for my PhD in England, and I'm originally from Los Angeles, so we moved from Los Angeles to England and everything like that. But I realized that it's been hard to focus on studying in my PhD, and one of the major reasons being is that it's emotionally draining. And one of the reasons that it's emotionally draining is because there's something new every other day. There's a new announcement. There's a new caution. There's a new rule. There's a new benefit. There's a new tool. There's like something new every other day, and so you're almost constantly on alert, or you're constantly trying to scour the internet for these new things. So it's exhausting. It's emotionally exhausting, which makes it difficult to study or focus on things. My wife, she's handing, she said, but she just made me this delicious breakfast bagel, which is honestly one of my favorite things ever, because I am a huge fan of egg, bacon, cheese on a sandwich. Oh, so what she does that's so different than what I grew up with. My mom, okay, here's the way my mom used to do it. And this is like classic, my favorite breakfast meal. My favorite meal in the world is this meal. She'd get a croissant and she would toast the croissant. Then she'd shred some cheese, a scrambled egg, put some bacon on there. Boom, it's all warm, it's all cheesy, and it's all with the croissant being crunchy and everything. So something my wife does different, she puts it on a bagel. In LA, I was not a fan of bagels, except at Cantor's Deli was amazing. Here, the bagels are so light and fluffy. In LA, they were dense. Same with scones in LA. So dense. It was like just eating a wad of powdered cement, right? So you kind of stayed away from scones. You kind of stayed away, I did, from bagels, because there was just a big wad. Oh my gosh, I just had a big lump, I had a bag of birdseed. But so here the bagels are fluffy, which is so good. But my wife puts cream cheese on it instead of regular cheese, which I've never had before. I'm just used to regular cheese, and it is so good. It is so good. So she put the bacon and put the cream cheese. That's how. But anyways, I'm gonna go enjoy this breakfast meal. I hope you all find ways to be happy and connect to people, and feel free to. Zoom is really popular. Like, feel free just to have FaceTime phone calls with people, like family members. Like, I've been talking to some of my family members back in the States, and it's been great conversations. Yeah. So much love to you, much support to you, much success to you. I hope you're having you're finding happiness as much as you can.